What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. Finally getting around to actually getting the tier list video done. So look, this is not going to be an ultra long video because there hasn't really been that much that's really, shaking up the meta or anything like that. So we're going to go through the new characters that have arrived in this month, and we'll also have a look at some brief changes that we made to the tier list. Nothing too crazy. We're not going to go up go from 16 to 20. We're not going to go up by increments. We're just going to show everything at once and show off everything and see the changes overall as we made. As we said though, we're going to go through these new characters first. So the first character that introduced this month was the Ace legend that came out during Treasure Map. So the Ace Treasure Map legend that came out was just so left field, considering, we had the release of the summertime characters and we just kind of thought that they were going to continue on with that theming throughout the month. Lo and behold, they didn't, and here we have this Podcast D Ace, and to be honest, I think that this is like a pretty just okay legend. He doesn't have a lot going for him, but he is support for the Whitebeard Pirates, which could be really good in the future, especially because we have a character such as, where is he? This guy right here, the Ace and Whitebeard dual unit. If we get more support for that, could actually be quite good. And then he has a really interesting special, being able to inflict the burn, and he has a little bit of utility going on. He has the super special, of course, which is okay. He does have a pretty decent support effect, and what was his potential ability? It was a final tap, and his final tap is actually quite good. If you want to be running like a full striker team, this does actually give you quite a lot of additional damage. But of course, if you're talking high damage content, the issue with using this Ace is that we have another Ace character that is a free-to-play unit that is also really good to run on a striker team, which is the Exchange Ace, giving you double stacking conditional boost. This character does also have a final tap. It's not as good as the Treasure Map Ace that just came out though, but double stacking conditional boost is hard to compete with, so it's a little tough, honestly. So I think that Ace, he's just a very middle-of-the-road character. Yes, he's going to be nice to have, but unless if you're an Ultra Ace fan, I don't really see much of a reason to go out of your way to pull for this character. He just doesn't seem ultra required for a lot of teams, so I think that you could definitely skip this one. So after Ace, during the Kizuna Clash, we had the release of a new legend, which is Crocodile and Robin, or Miss All Sunday and Mr. Zero. I actually think, on paper, this character is very, very good. I'm not really the biggest fan of dual units in general, but this character is very strong. So again, more striker support, which is obviously awesome to see. The very, very complex looking set of abilities for the captain ability, but honestly, it's quite good. You've got good multipliers here, you've got cooldown reduction, you've got just the basic stuff, matching slots, you've got some HP, damage reduction, all that good stuff. But the ability to remove bind and pain by 3 turns, that's really cool. Pain removal is a very niche effect. But sometimes you just want this. There's going to be very niche scenarios where it comes up, but it can be very good. And up to twice per adventure, if any one of the Warlords, or, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 3 uses their special, you get guaranteed increased damage taken through immunity, so that's pretty sick. They've got a really interesting captain shift mechanic, which can definitely give them credence into using them as a captain to get around bind or pain, and then you can use the captain shift to switch them out of the of that captain spot, which can allow you to use some really good striker focused captains versus Law, Rocks Pirates, Roger Rayleigh Gaban, Saturn even, right? There's a lot of good characters you could use. And then you got the special, which is actually quite good as well. The poison, increased defense removal, and then you got chain lock or color affinity buff, the weakness buff. They also have the super special, which you can obviously use to remove barrier, which is super cool. So they've got a lot going for them. They're very good in PvP as well. So I do think that out of all of these legends that we've talked about, that we're going to talk about in this video, this is the closest, I think, to actually being up there. However, Garp, which we'll talk about in a moment, Garp is also very good. We had the 6+ of Mihawk and Perona. I think this is a very underwhelming Super Evolution. We did make a showcase video for this character. It just feels like this character was basically designed to be used with Crocodile and Nico Robin, the character we just talked about, and outside of that, maybe this character is going to be useful in one of the upcoming treasure map bosses, but outside of that, I don't really see Mihawk and Perona doing much. They didn't really give them much of a buff. The captain ability, yes, you have the effect at the start of the quest, you get an attack boost or an orb boost or whatever it is, that's okay, I guess. And then you have the ability to remove special bind, basically, is the big addition to their kit. So overall, I think Mihawk and Perona are very, very underwhelming. And then we move on to the end of month batch, which is where we find ourselves right now with Monkey D. Garp and Figureland Garling. So Garp, I'm a massive fan of what they've done with this unit, because this character is basically the best friend of 10th anniversary Ace, 11th anniversary Kizaru. This character is very strong, providing pretty interesting effects in the captain, and obviously you get benefits if you run Navy, Vice Admiral, or Egghead. And of course, if you're using Kizaru or Ace, you're going to fulfill those categories very, very easily. Very interesting crewmate abilities as well, like just a really good crewmate to use, getting rid of Threshold, and then you can get like attack boost or color affinity buff, or buff those effects that you got, being able to give himself a ton of cooldown, which partners well with the Kizaru to make sure that this character can essentially double special launch. So pretty cool effects there. The super effect, his super special, like the super typing, can actually work as a sub, which is massive. In order to do it though, you do need a 6 times attack boost or a 6 times orb boost. And this is the only real downfall I can find for the character right now, is if you are running that team of like Ace, Kizaru, and Garp, there isn't really an effective way to guarantee this 6 times boost, unless if my math is like super off. But I'm pretty sure, I was talking with Stump about this, there's no real effective way to do this unless if you are going out of your way to use very specific units on your team. And at the end of the day, if you really look at what you're getting here, you're just getting a slight color affinity buff, and he does allow you to perform super tandem with deck slots, which I guess is good with Ace, because Ace does give you a full board of deck slots. But I think that generally speaking, it's very hard to get this, and the buff that you get out of it, you're buffing super fighters. And again, if we're looking in that scenario of Ace and Kizaru, those characters aren't fighters anyway, so only Garp himself is really getting the benefit of this. So I don't think it's like the end of the world. You know, you can pretty much forget about this. I think it's not that important, but it is annoying that it is actually a little bit tricky to get. And his support effect is actually quite good as well. Can definitely see play. And the big thing as well, super tandem ability, which partners really well with Kizaru, getting super tandem boost. You've got Ace, which can grant you the Rush Sugo special. So the only thing you'll need now is like a really good final tap to stack with all of these characters together. And this deck shooter team is looking mighty scary. So out of the units here, I think that like Croc Robin and Garp are very close to going into the top 20, but I have a couple of other characters that we'll talk about. So next we have Figureland Garling. Garling, I think, is obviously one of these units with the Celestial Dragons, the 5 Elders. Like, these types of units, they're going to be better and better as time goes on, and this is just yet again more support for this. I think that overall his kit is pretty solid overall. I do like his potential ability of the final tap. He has a very usable final tap wherever it is. Oh no, yeah, his final tap was terrible. I forgot. It was Garp that had the good potential ability because it worked with Kizaru and Ace. His final tap, yeah, was garbage. It doesn't really help out the 5 Elders or the Celestial Dragons at all. But of course, we are expecting to see more of those characters release in the future, and they will have better and better abilities. So because his condition, his last tap isn't that great, means that I could see this guy being replaced very easily once we get more support for the Celestial Dragons. The special is good though, being able to get special bind removal, really good orb boosting effects, and the fact that he does have that effect where if you have a certain amount of cost, then his special works for all characters. So that could be good depending on the types and classes of the other Celestial Dragons that we get in the future, because making this special work with those units is obviously very good. But the other thing, of course, is the fact that this is a very good character to use with J. Garcia Saturn, and with all of the recent stuff that has happened over the last month with the support for the Striker class, this is the reason why we go up to the top 20 here. This is the reason why I have put in J. Garcia Saturn in the top 20. He's just slid in. I actually did take out the New Year's Luffy, the Strength New Year's Luffy, mainly just because he hasn't really needed to be used. Like, if you're going to use a Luffy on a high damage team, this is really not the Luffy you're going to use. So I did slide that Luffy out. I did put Saturn in, and the rest of this is the same. We move on to the 11 to 15, and this is where I have bumped up a character. I guess we could just go ahead and show it straight away. I did bump up Law and Blackbeard versus unit, and I bumped down the Int Luffy. Again, it's just we have so many Luffys in the game that this Luffy just doesn't see that much play. I guess, yeah, people still go out of their way to use him, but compared to some of the other Luffys, or just, you know, the fact that the teams that I've been building, I haven't really needed to use this Int Luffy in quite a long time. At least in normal content. Obviously, he's still very good in Pirate Rumble, but that's not what this is about. And I bumped up Law versus Blackbeard mainly just because in this most recent month, it really showed the value of Versus Law. We've been waiting for so long, literally since this character came out, we've been waiting for Versus Law to have a time to shine, and with the release of Roger Rayleigh Gaban and the release of the Rocks Pirates, it has made Versus Law incredibly powerful, and that ability to give a ton of cooldown, captain switch mechanics, having the Versus ability on top of that as well, Law also inflicting attack boost, orb boost, overhealing buff, which can trigger the EX super of some of these key characters, is just absolutely massive. Obviously works well with Jay Garcia's Saturn as well. So I do think that Versus Law, rightly so, got bumped up into the top 10. We still have the Rocks Pirates barely squeaked out of the top 5 because I do believe that Dex, Roger, and Nami and Karina are more valuable units to own. And then in the 10th position, I do have the Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji character from the 11th anniversary. I still think this character is great, and just because this character isn't a top 5 legend doesn't necessarily mean the character is bad. It's just that there's not too many situations where you need to use them, and in a lot of situations where you do actually want to use this character, you can just use them as a friend captain, and that just works out better in a lot of scenarios, because if you use this character on your team, you can't use characters like Zoro and Sanji, or any other Luffy that you may want to put on your team. So relegating this character to a friend captain actually makes your team better, ultimately meaning you don't actually need to own the unit. You just need to have someone on your friends list with the unit, which is, it's a really weird kind of scenario with this unit, but when you look at what this character does on paper, like Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are still a very powerful top level Treasure Cruise legend. And I guess with all of that, let's have a look at the top 5 legends that I have here. Now, I did make a slight change where I bumped Kizaru up to the 4th position and moved Luffy down, Luffy versus Kaido, that is, down to the 5th position, which is not really a big deal. I mainly just bumped Kizaru up because of the release of Garp, which really helps out that Dex Navy team. I mean, the more time goes on, the more I actually like Ace a lot more than Zoro and Sanji, but like at the same time, Zoro and Sanji are supremely busted. And I guess like just the fact that these units can all be used together is what makes, you know, these units as busted as what they are. And I guess, you know, if you take out Zoro and Sanji, it does kind of make a lot of these other units worse. So Luffy, like with Zoro and Sanji being as supremely good as they are, I think it makes sense to just keep them in the number 1 position. It's going to take something absolutely mind-blowing to blow this character out of the water. But that's pretty much it. There's really not much else to talk about. Not really major changes here to the tier list. But it is going to be interesting to see when we move on to this upcoming month's tier list at the end of August. Because we are expecting One Piece Day to debut at Super Sugo Fest. Last year, when they did the official live stream for the Super Sugo Fest, or like the teasing of what's going to be coming, they revealed it on the live stream, and literally the next day was when the character batch debuted. So it's going to be pretty fast. You know, once we get the reveal of the One Piece Day event, it's going to be coming very quickly. And we are expecting it to be a Super Sugo Fest. At this point in time, we have absolutely no idea what it could possibly be. Hopefully it's not like just rehashes of Egghead stuff we've already seen. Hopefully it's not another Gear 5 Luffy, but that's the safe bet, right? Let's hope that it's not another Gear 5. We can go a little longer before we get another one of those. But that's going to wrap it up for me, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this one down below in the comment section. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.